Survivor fans, we are here. The merge has finally happened. There are so many alliances forming, and we see the danger of jury management. We're here to talk about Season 37, Episode 7, Survivor Davids vs. Goliath. Don't move away.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's going on, Survivor fans? We are here on this beautiful Wednesday night.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. You are all beautiful. We are clearly beautiful. We are very excited.
Thank you. That's the only compliment and the only niceness we're going to have towards each other tonight.
You guys, if you have seen this episode, we are fired up. I know everybody in the chat, which Veronica is on right now, is pretty fired up too. Unfortunately, Paige is not here, but you are in good hands. I am here with a beautiful Veronica. Go ahead and introduce yourself, my love.
Hey guys, Veronica, Valencia. How are you all tonight?
And I am Timothy Michael. Like I said, we are fired up right now, you guys.
Oh, man.
We have so much to talk about, so why don't we dive in?
Yes.
Overall thoughts on the episode?
I am so mad.
Why?
Because Elizabeth did not deserve to go home. I am so upset. I honestly don't know how Angelina keeps being able to manipulate people and convince people to go with her plan when she, I feel clearly, is so obvious to what she's doing, yet no one sees her as like, we're gonna get her out, we're gonna get her out.
Which is really funny because they mentioned it at Tribal, this whole jury management aspect of the game, and I wasn't even looking at it like that. You were.
I was.
When she had the Elizabeth conversation, I wasn't. And after they had said it, I was like, oh yeah, that does make sense. That's clearly what she was doing. She's saying that that's not the case. I think, yes, I do think she's lying. But you have to give it to Angelina. She is such a smooth talker. For this to be a unanimous vote is insane to me. How? How did nobody else vote? You know what? Let's start at the beginning, you guys, because I don't want to jump too far into the end. So the merge has happened. Let's start off slow, Veronica. The merge has happened in this episode. We're very, very excited. New blue buffs. The new tribe is called Zalo. Callo, thank you. What did we think of the merge?
I really liked it. I was so happy to see everyone back together. What I was super excited about was typically in a lot of seasons when the merge happens, everyone still sticks with the numbers, everyone goes back to their original lines, but I was so happy to see that no one really cared about that.
Yes, so was I. I was actually very, and we kind of predicted in past episodes, people wanting to switch their alliances because they were on different tribes. Now, when it gets to the merge, that's when talk comes to play. It's like, oh, do you want to talk the talk or do you want to walk the walk? And a lot of people, like you said, are actually walking the walk. They are blurring the lines between David versus Goliath, which I like, because if it's David versus Goliath the entire season, then it becomes a little predictable.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we see it right off the bat, you know, John, Gabby is talking about, you know, looking for an advantage, which I really enjoyed because I was thinking about the same thing. We were sitting there watching the merge feast happen, and I was like, is anybody going to look for an advantage? Were you surprised that there wasn't one?
I mean, there very well could have been. Maybe Gabby just didn't have the right opportunity without being too obvious that she was looking for an advantage.
Yeah.
Because everyone is there, everyone's eating. You can't go to someone and just be like, oh, I'm going to take your napkin holder, or I'm just going to look at the sign because it's so pretty. It's so obvious.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it would have been a bad game move for her to just start looking for things. And I was worried when she did notice the sign that she would go and try to look at it while everybody was looking, but I'm glad that she didn't. And maybe if there was an advantage or anything there, they didn't show it because nobody found it. Alliances are formed pretty fast when the merge happens, and not only alliances are formed, but targets are also formed. Carl still has a problem with Elizabeth, as we saw from last episode. Do you think that is justified?
No.
Why?
Absolutely not. Because it's a passion vote. Kind of what I said at the beginning of one of these episodes with Natalia, and I believe it was Natalia and maybe it was Natalie or it was someone else. I forgot exactly who. But they are voting on passion. Carl is just like, Elizabeth's really annoying, so I really want to get her out. And it's like, that's not why you should eliminate somebody.
Well, Carl was doing a lot of talking. He actually let it slip to, well, not even let it slip. He purposely said to Alec, no, sorry, to Angelina that Alec was behind the Natalia vote. And that's why he flipped, and that's why she got voted out. And that causes a red flag for Angelina. And if we know anything after this episode, giving Angelina bits of information is not the smartest because she will use that. She will tuck it away in her head, and I guarantee that is not the last that we hear about Alec flipping on Natalia.
I know that we are going to talk a lot about Angelina kind of playing a good game and like escaping all of this negativity, but I also want to give it up to Alec in this episode because you know, the Goliaths now do know that he is responsible for Natalia's blind side, and he's working behind the scenes and kind of the head figure of this new little alliance that he has going on, and yet he still isn't really under any fire.
Yeah.
Yet.
Well, it's funny because Angelina knows this information about him, but she still has yet to use it. So that's why I don't know. Angelina, she's just too smart. She's too smart for her own good. I can't even stand it.
But I feel like she's so obvious, and that's what's so shocking to me, that she's obvious and nobody is seeing it.
But here's the thing.
Acting on it.
Here's the thing. We say that she's so obvious based on what we're seeing as viewers. We're watching a television show. If we're looking at it, because we can say the same thing with Elizabeth. Everybody's saying that she's annoying, but we're not seeing how Elizabeth is annoying. You know what I mean? So it's like they're seeing different things on camp because they're with these people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're literally watching them for an hour. So it's different. I feel like we might think that she's obvious, but her tribe mates probably do not see that. They probably look at her as like a genuine, loyal person.
Well, here's what I want to say. If you're in a game for $1 million, would you rather stick around with the person who's just annoying, or would you rather stick around with the person who basically tells you you're voting for this person, no ifs, ands, ors, or buts?
I feel like a lot of the votes for the past couple of weeks have been getting chaos out. And they said that in the episode tonight. I feel like when they voted out Natalia, that was because she was being a little bit bossy. When they got out Natalie, obviously that was just chaos incarnate, so vote her out. Elizabeth was causing some kind of chaos. I'm not sure exactly what kind of chaos because I didn't see how she was causing all of this trouble, but clearly the tribe felt that way, so they voted her out unanimously. Like, that's a huge part. So clearly they're seeing things that we are not.
Not only am I just furious with the fact that she got eliminated, I'm slightly disappointed. Nope, not slightly. I'm very disappointed in some of our Davids, and we'll get more into that, obviously, when we get to Tribal.
The Tribal, yes. And we want to know how frustrated you guys are as well. A lot of reunions are starting to happen with the merge as well. We've got Nick and Christian are back together, the Mason-Dixon Alliance.
I love it!
I love it, too. I totally forgot about it. There's been so much that has happened, and I didn't actually expect these people to pick up right where they left off, but they are, including Kara and Dan. How do we feel about that still? Right?
I was never a fan of it from the very beginning. You can tell that Dan is too trusting of Kara. He literally slips it out. Oh, by the way, I got another idol.
Literally, as you just merged, after you've been away from each other for a couple of days, about a week, maybe a little over a week, you don't know what has happened. You don't know where her loyalties lie anymore, and yet you're just gonna sit here and say, "Oh, I've seen you for about 30 minutes. Here, by the way, I have another idol." Why?
She already knows that you have one. She doesn't know that you need to have another. And the thing about it, too, is if Kara plays her cards right, she could easily manipulate Dan into getting one of those at least.
Of course. I still feel like Dan is just one of those people that will either go home with both idols or one idol in his pocket. I just feel it. I don't know what it is about him. I just feel like he's not playing a smart game. No. I mean, those are my thoughts on that.
I feel like you would think that he thinks he's playing a very smart game because, I don't know if it's too early to talk about this, but when his name comes up as possibly getting thrown out, he's so paranoid. And who was it? It was like Kara was saying, "You're the king right now. You got two idols. No one's like calling out your name, really."
See, I half blame Kara though because she's over here hyping him up. You know what I mean? You're just enabling this. Stop enabling the behavior. Well, before we get into that, I want to talk about how we talked about the lines being blurred between Goliath and David. Yet, when we get to the merge, the Goliaths, Angelina, Alec, John, Kara, and Dan, they all get together and start talking about how they want to target the Davids. So clearly it's still a David versus Goliath game. And Angelina is the smarter one because she says that she thinks that they should use their numbers to get out Christian. And I know that you were pretty upset about that.
If Paige were here, she would completely agree with me.
She would, yes, I agree.
Here's the thing. This might be the only thing that I kind of agree with on Angelina is that Christian is a threat.
Thank you.
Because he is so socially amazing. People love him. Like, even Dan, when his name brought up, was like, it's like ripping my heart apart. The brochachos don't want to be taken apart. So she is smart in realizing that. However, I love Christian. I just want to keep seeing him throughout the remainder of the show. So that's why I'm like, do not put his name out there.
No, I completely agree with you, but you have to tip your hat to Angelina for actually calling it out because nobody else wants to. And she's right. She literally told her alliance, he will beat us. And he would. I mean, if it was down to him and any Goliath on that tribe, he would probably win in jury.
The way that I feel about Angelina right now is that she is one of the frustratingly good players.
Yes.
She reminds me a lot personally of how I felt about Tony from Cagayan.
Okay, see, here we go. Go ahead.
Here we go. Okay. In the sense that she is a strategically very good player. However, her portrayal on the show irritates me. The way the jacket incident, the jury management today, something about her portrayal just doesn't sit well with me. But I can acknowledge that she is playing the game very well.
And I hear what you're saying. But to
God,
compare Angelina to Tony, now granted, Tony did win, and I did not like Tony. Tony was one of those players where I was like, you cannot win, because he was such a slime ball about the entire thing. Angelina, I feel, as of right now, day 20, has not done anything over the line, like an over betrayal of any one player, where I'm like, yeah, you're a good player, but I just don't like your gameplay and the style that you're playing. She hasn't done anything wrong. Like, yeah, she's a little, like, she's very wordy, she's a very smooth talker, but she hasn't done anything absolutely terrible. I don't see how you feel that way.
I think it's just the fact that she is such a smooth talker, but she comes across as very bossy. We see it in this episode. She wanted the vote to go her way, and when people were like, oh, we want to change it, she was like, well, I'm just going to go with the group. The group made a decision, and now you're changing it on me. No, the group did not make a decision. You made the decision for the group.
But at the same time, she had the nerve to actually get the group together and make a decision. She said what she needed to say in front of everybody. And then once the group is split up, then Dan wants to go behind everybody her back and then have a conversation when he could have just voiced his concerns right there in the group. So I can understand why her frustration was in that situation by saying, we made a decision as a group, and then you guys went behind my back and then decided, oh no, we're actually going to vote for Elizabeth instead of Christian.
I just want to go to the chat real quick because
please. I need to know what people are thinking.
They are also talking about Angelina. Sheena123 in the chat is saying Angelina is the new Abby Maria.
No!
I would not say that. Abby Maria was just very frustrating.
Oh my gosh.
She was just and she did not necessarily play the best game. They kept her around for so long because they knew they could get her out because no one liked her.
And she was crazy. Abby Maria is insane. No, Angelina's not even touching Abby Maria right now.
No.
Sorry, Sheena123.
Sorry,
we disagree.
We do have to disagree. We will agree on that one. But Royal15 in the chat is also saying, oh my OMG, Angelina does frustrate me so much, but yes, she's so good at this game. Austin is saying, I'm team Angelina right now. I'll always root for the messy queen. So some mixed reactions in the chat. Some people are liking her, some people are being frustrated at her.
Which is understandable. I mean, there's mixed reactions right here in this room.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's because she's on my draft that I'm tolerating her, but I honestly have seen people on Survivor, and we both have, that have done crazy things to people on their alliance or people that they're close with to be like, whoa, you're insane, and I don't like you as a person. I really don't want you to win this game, but you probably will. And Angelina hasn't crossed that line for me yet. She has the potential to. I will give that to you, but she hasn't done it yet for me. I want to talk about Alec really quick, because Alec had a pretty big part in tonight's episode. He is the one that is the most willing to blur these lines between David and Goliath. And he sits there and he talks to Mike and Allison. And Mike is bringing up having his own alliance, and he talks about bringing Nick in. And Alec is obviously receptive to this. Alec has got he's got his hands in very many pots, and I'm worried that he might get burned.
I can definitely see that.
Right?
I think, and here's again, everything is coming back to tribal that I know I have to wait for, and it's so frustrating.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. I do think so. I think that Alec is another one that's very surprising me in that it hasn't come back to bite him in the butt yet with the Natalia thing, with making these alliances. He's playing his cards very smoothly.
That's because Angelina hasn't blown up his spot yet.
I'm not going to give that to her.
I know you're not.
I'm not going to give that to her. No, because I could, no.
You don't want to give her any credit. Okay, fine.
I will give her credit that she is playing the game very well and that she is managing very well to escape elimination, but I'm not going to give her the credit that she is saving Alec.
No, I don't think she's saving him, but she is saving this information to use it against him later. And I think after she finds out what he's been doing with all these alliances, one in particular that I want to talk about, the Strikeforce Alliance, which Christian so aptly names, is very interesting to me because out of all the alliances, this is the one that I was most intrigued with. So it's got 3 Goliaths and 3 Davids. It's a nice mixture of everybody. It's got Alec, Mike, and Allison from the Goliaths, and Nick, Christian, and Gabby from the Davids. Now, I want to talk about Gabby really quick because Gabby actually went up to Alec and had a conversation with him.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised because she's been the one that's been very taking a back seat, and she's very, I feel socially awkward, so I'm not going to talk to anybody. But she doesn't have an issue going up to Alec and being like, hey, look, let's talk. And I liked that tonight.
I liked that she was able to go up and confidently have a conversation with him. The thing that might start disappointing me when it comes to Gabby is if she keeps playing this game of like, I'm going to take a back seat. No one wants to come up to me and talk strategy like how she was with the Tiva tribe. And she was like, it's a boys club. No one wants to talk strategy with me. It's like, if you keep playing this game of like sometimes you're gonna go up and make moves and then sometimes you're gonna step back and complain about it, that's where I feel like I'm gonna start getting disappointed with her.
Yes. Now I want to bring it back to Kara and Dan because Elizabeth overhears them talking at camp at night, and she goes and tells Alec this bit of information, and then Alec turns on Elizabeth and goes and tells Kara and Dan what she said. Do we think that was the smartest thing for him?
I think so. I think for right now, because for Alec, he made a good point. As much as I would have loved for him to try and save Elizabeth, I completely realized why he had to make the vote that he made tonight. And I think it was smart of him to realize that, he has to play the side of the Goliaths to earn their trust so that way when it's time to strike, him and his new alliance can go in and start taking out some of the Goliaths.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that it was a smart move for him, especially since everybody else voted for Elizabeth as well, so nobody's on the wrong side of the vote. But he's the one that did say he didn't want to vote off a David because then they would think that he is just solely with the Goliaths. So I think that he still has to balance that as well. Let's talk about the first individual immunity challenge because this one was really fun because I like when challenges they're not biased. They don't sway one way to physicality or to mental. It's literally just more of like I like the endurance ones. I like that anybody can succeed at them. And in this one, they had to swing a pendulum through a frame around a statue. If you hit the frame and the pendulum stops, or if the statue falls, you're out. And it went pretty fast. There was like a little twist after 15 minutes. You had to switch hands. Mike was the first one out. What I loved was that it was down to 2 women.
I loved it.
Right?
I absolutely loved that it was down to 2 women. It just made me so happy. But, gosh, those last 2, my anxiety was through the roof because obviously I knew Elizabeth was on the chopping block and I wanted her to win so bad. But I am happy Allison won.
That's very true. I'm glad that you brought that up because I think when Elizabeth watches this back, she will literally realize that there was one person standing between her and going home. And if she had just held on a little longer, then she might have actually won the immunity challenge and then not went home tonight. That's how close it could be. It's insane to me. And
that would frustrate me so much if I had to watch that back.
Right? It would be frustrating to me too. She can go ponder about it on Ponderosa. I feel like I was very surprised that it was actually down to Allison and Elizabeth. Elizabeth, not so much. More Allison. I wasn't expecting Allison to be that good at an individual challenge. She would have been like maybe the last person on my radar, which is unfair to say. I understand because you never know who can be good at these challenges.
Exactly. You never know. And I feel like up until the merge, maybe we'll start seeing more of her. But I feel like up until now, we haven't really seen a lot of her. We kind of know that she was on the Goliaths and then she moved to Tiva when they had to split up. But she never had a super big shining moment, and I like the fact that she's part of this new alliance with Alec. I like the fact that she won the first immunity challenge. I'm hoping that she'll stick around for a lot longer.
Yes, I hope that it sounds like an oxymoron, but I hope that she doesn't win too many challenges because then it'll just put a target on her back, because it always does. If you win too many individual immunity challenges right out the gate, then people are like, oh, you're actually good at challenges. So yeah. I mean, maybe this could have been one that she could have afforded to lose. But at the same time...
It's also the first one.
Right. So you gotta... I get it. It's like a double-edged sword. Like, you could either go all out and prove to people that you can actually play this game, or you can take like a middle ground seat and be like, oh, well, I don't need to win it. But I feel like with individual immunity, you always have to win it.
I feel like with an individual immunity, you always have to win it, and you always want to win it. I don't think if I was on Survivor, I don't think I could go into that immunity challenge and be like, okay, I can afford to lose this. I might not try my best. That would just be such a hard pill to swallow, and thinking that you're not doing all that you can to succeed, even if it might, I guess, put a target on you. And granted, in this game right now, Allison doesn't know this. A lot of the other contestants don't know this. But the alliances are changing so much that it's like, I don't feel like it doesn't really matter right now who's winning immunities and who's not.
Agreed. So right after Allison wins the immunity, they go back to camp. And of course, there's another mad scramble for who is going to go home tonight. Elizabeth's name is thrown out a lot, mainly by the Goliaths. And Angelina still wants to target Christian, but they don't want to target Christian. Obviously, because Christian's social game. And that's another thing to me. Like, that has to be a red flag. If somebody's like, hey, let's vote out Christian, and you're sitting there going, no, I don't want to vote out Christian. Why? Why? Because he's made a social connection with you. Because he's playing the game socially. Like, come on, you guys. Like, you have to think about all of these things. And I don't think that they are. I think they're playing with emotion. And granted, it is a game. They are humans. We all are humans, obviously. So you want to have these connections, but at the same time, you have to take the emotion out of it if you want to make a decision that's right for your game for $1 million. You have anything in the chat?
Yes. Before I go on to the Christian talk, Christian talk, because I have a lot to say. A few people in the chat are saying, as long as you don't win multiple ones in a row, going back to winning individual immunities, hashtag win immunity at all costs, win them sporadically. And then, yeah, that's all right now on that topic. But I agree. Like I said, I can give it to Angelina, and that she made a very good point that Christian is playing a very good social game. Maybe blindside him when no one else is seeing. However, I love Christian. I want him to stick around. And honestly, I'd be so impressed if he even won.
Yeah, well, so does John and Dan. John and Dan also want him to stick around, which is exactly why the vote flips from Christian to Elizabeth. And they tell Angelina, and, you know, I understand that she came off a little abrasive when she was talking to them.
A little?
She came off a little abrasive, Veronica.
Okay.
On who she wanted to vote with. She was passionate, if you will, but she was right. She's right. I mean, at the end of the day, she is right. Whether you like it or not, whether we like Christian or not, whether we do agree or disagree that she should go home, he is a threat, and she was right. So
but here's the thing. Angelina's also a threat. How about that? Because she is.
Okay, but we're not talking about Angelina because she's talking to her alliance right now. They're talking about somebody to vote off. They're not obviously going to sit there and talk about somebody in their own alliance to go home. I'm just saying. What frustrated me was that Gabby in the beginning was willing to vote out Elizabeth, and then after they come back and the Goliaths are sitting there talking, the Davids get the impression that, oh, the Goliaths are just voting, they're just talking about who they can pick off one by one, and that frustrates Gabby, and then Gabby goes and says, you know, I think that we should stay David strong. So then all these bloodlines that we had before are back in play now. Now it's Davids versus Goliaths, or so I thought.
I mean, it's very easy to go that way because no one knows about these other alliances that are going on, and so it's very easy to assume, oh, all the Goliaths are sticking together, all the old Davids are sticking together. And honestly, I was very happy that Gabby threw out Angelina's name to try and save Elizabeth. However, someone else in the chat, Hellsum90, is saying, should Elizabeth called out Angelina sooner rather than later at Tribal?
I was thinking about that. I don't. Clearly, it wasn't a solid move. Clearly, it wasn't the smartest move. If it was, it wouldn't have been a unanimous vote. I feel like whether she had said it at Tribal or said it at camp, I think Angelina's such a smooth talker that she would have just talked her way out of it, just like she did at Tribal. Like, if you could talk yourself out of that at Tribal, and people are sitting around whispering, like, that's like the ultimate blindside. And I'm not talking about votes. I'm talking about, you know, somebody bringing something up at Tribal and just calling you out on something while everybody is sitting there, and you can talk yourself out of that situation. You are a force to be reckoned with. So I feel like whether she brought it up at camp or she brought it up at Tribal, Angelina would have just talked herself out of it.
See, here's the thing. She smooth talked very well. Yes, I will give her that. But I am also wondering if it even mattered because it was such a unanimous vote. And in this particular situation with Dan, he got so butthurt when his name was brought up with Elizabeth. So I felt like even with this chaos that Angelina stirred up, I felt like he was, again, like Carl, a passionate voter just wanting to get at Elizabeth for bringing up his name.
Yes, if we want to talk about butthurt voters, though, or just butthurt people when their name are thrown out, we can talk about Elizabeth, because Angelina goes up to Elizabeth and tells her, you know, after they switched the vote to Elizabeth, do we think that Angelina telling Elizabeth about that she was getting voted out was an emotional thing, or was it more strategic?
It was so strategic. It was absolutely. She in Tribal so much tried to be like, I've tried to have this real, authentic human emotion. And maybe it was, but as I said, as a viewer, her portrayal is not coming across that way, which is the frustrating part about watching her.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was 100% strategy. I know, Timothy, in the beginning you were saying you didn't think at that moment that she was fighting for jury votes, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, jury votes. She is managing so hard right now.
Do you know why I didn't think it was a jury vote or jury management at that point? Was because I felt like she just felt blindsided or a little bit betrayed by her own alliance, where they just flipped the vote without consulting her or talking to her about it. And she says it. She's like, I feel like I'm being told what to do. And out of frustration, she went and told Elizabeth. Do I think that she had a strategic motive behind her? Yes. Do I think that it was jury management? No. I felt like she wanted to keep Elizabeth in her back pocket in case, for whatever reason, Elizabeth didn't go home, or because Elizabeth might have had an idol. I think that's what it was. I don't think that she was trying to get a jury vote, if that makes sense.
No, I still think she was trying to get a jury vote.
Okay, I mean, you know, we can agree to disagree. Go ahead.
But that was an interesting comment that she said, where she is complaining, I feel like I am being told what to do, when again, in her portrayal this episode, it seemed like she was telling everyone else what to do. Let's vote Christian. And I know I've talked about this and that she's making a good point. However, I felt like there wasn't much of a discussion. It was like, oh, we're going after Christian? Great. We're done. We're good.
I don't know. I also feel like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but then at the same time, when they went and said, you know, we're going to vote out Christian, I mean, we're going to stay with Elizabeth, we're switching it back to Elizabeth, she was like, okay. She literally was like, okay. There was no like, well, why? I don't. She said, I would like to know why, but there wasn't like any abrasive or like argumentative like attitude from her. She was just like, okay. I feel like she understands that if it's not your name being thrown around, then it's okay to switch up your vote if your tribe wants to. But I feel like for us to sit here and say, oh, you know, she was very, you know, it was her decision or my way or the highway kind of attitude, I disagree. I mean, yes, she was very passionate about getting Christian out, and she's right. I would be passionate about getting Christian out too, because he's a threat. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say. The funny thing about the whole entire situation with Elizabeth blowing up Angelina at Tribal, it was Gabby's idea. Mm-hmm. Gabby was the one that said, you know, they should tell Goliath about Angelina at Tribal. And Gabby played a lot of moves tonight. I mean, she was doing a lot of talking. She's talking to Alec. She's talking to Elizabeth. Gabby is also a force to be reckoned with. There was some little glimmers there of Gabby that we saw tonight that I was impressed by.
75% of me is not happy with her.
Why?
Because of the way that the voting went and her performance at Tribal.
Oh yes. Well, let's get into it, because now we're going to talk about Tribal, you guys.
But before we go into
please.
Before we go into that, I just want to say Eric agrees with me. Angelina was clearly after a jury vote, but Sheena is saying she agrees with you, Timothy, and Royal Fatina is saying Angelina is very smart. And again, I keep seeing this comment come up, and it's something that I thought of too. People in the chat are continuously saying something about Gabby reminds them of Hannah from Millennials versus Gen X.
I can see that. I can see that Gabby reminds them of Hannah. I do not appreciate the comment of Angelina being compared to Abby Maria. I just don't understand that.
No, I agree with you on that one. That one's far out there.
Yeah. What else are they saying?
They like Gabby.
See, I like Gabby too. I think
I do.
I like Gabby. That's why I was surprised when you said 75% of her.
75% of me is very disappointed with her relationship right now.
Okay. Well, Tribal Council. Do we have anything else, like a live read or anything like that?
Oh, we do, as a matter of fact. Hey, AfterBuzzers, did you know that our network produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows? From dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more, there is no other network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help. We're asking that you please go and subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channels, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they're completely optional. So hit that subscribe button button now and like this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments, and we'll thank you on air. We all will. We all love seeing comments.
We love seeing comments, clearly.
For now, thank you for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk.
Thank you, Veronica. And thank you to the fans. You guys, we obviously do this show for you. We love you guys. We feel the love from you. If you are listening to us on iTunes or Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. If you're listening to us on YouTube, hey now. If you're watching on YouTube or listening to us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, tweet at us. Make sure you subscribe to @AfterBuzz TV as well to stay connected. And like Veronica said, to find out about shows that you might not think have after shows over at AfterBuzz. So let's talk about Tribal really quick.
Oh, Tribal. Oh.
Yes. Here's what I love, that Jeff kind of set the tone when he said merge vote sets the tone for the back half of the season. Do we agree?
Maybe.
After this vote, Elizabeth went home. So now it's pretty much the Goliaths picking off the Davids. That's what I get from it. Now, do we think that scenario is going to stick episode after episode throughout the back half of the season?
No.
Okay.
I think that's why I wasn't sure. I feel like in most situations, yes, it would very much set the tone, because when you go in with the numbers and you're the minority in numbers, you always want to get someone to flip, and then that's going to set the precedent going forward. But this season just feels completely different because the Davids and the Goliaths barely remain in their alliance, even when they were still in the two tribes.
Yes.
So I felt like this vote is very strategic for some, very passionate for others. It's just a vote, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like once again, Survivor, things change from week to week to week. And for Jeff to say that, the merge vote sets the tone for the back half of the season, I don't necessarily agree with that either. I think that, it could go either way. You just never know. Like, you could be sitting here talking about, the Goliaths are literally picking off the Davids, and then next week a Goliath will go home because the Goliath flipped. You never know what can happen. So, I guess we'll see. A lot of conversations happening at Tribal tonight. Allison calls out Angelina once Elizabeth calls out Angelina and says that's when she mentions the whole jury managing aspect of it. And then Gabby's emotion toward Angelina was just,
It bothered me. It disappointed me, and it bothered me because, again, Gabby does this back and forth where it's 1 minute she'll be, very good and a very strong competitor, going up and talking strategy with people. Other times she'll take the seat back and then start complaining, oh, it's their fault, not mine, because they're not inviting me into their conversations. But it's like, clearly, you can go up to them and talk to them yourself. And in Tribal, she got very emotional defending Elizabeth, and then she votes against Elizabeth.
That's my thing. I feel like Gabby was literally just putting on an act. Like, for there to be a unanimous vote, clearly everybody talked about sending Elizabeth home before Tribal. Like, nobody, even on her own alliance, on Elizabeth's own alliance, voted to keep her. And Gabby's sitting there crying about it. Why?
But yeah, that's my exact point, is why get emotional if you are not going to go with what your emotions are showing?
But that's what I mean. It must have been an act. And if you can act like that, good on you, because I did not expect this unanimous vote. I haven't seen a unanimous vote on a merge vote in a very long time. So, and for them to send home Elizabeth, I just didn't understand it. Was she really that annoying? That's
what we were all asking, because clearly we didn't see that in the edit.
Not at all. I enjoyed Elizabeth. I thought she was a strong personality, yes, but I didn't think that she did anything to deserve a unanimous vote home. What are people in the chat saying?
Quite a few people are agreeing that they think it's an act. Mere Domain says, yeah, Gabby crying was a bit of an act, I think. And Austin is saying, I couldn't tell if Gabby's crying at Tribal were strategic or not. And then Desiree responds saying it was completely strategic. And yeah, I just want to know if it was strategic, what's the method behind it? Is it, was this a jury management thing?
Maybe. That's a good point. I'm glad that you brought that up, because if we want to talk about anybody jury managing, it might have been Gabby. For you to sit there and cry and defend Elizabeth, and yet you wrote her name down. And once Elizabeth watches this back, I don't know if they do before they do their final vote. Maybe she might even ask the tribe at the final tribal council. Yeah. But I feel like if Gabby makes it that far and Elizabeth finds out, I don't think she'd get her vote. Because clearly it was just an act. I don't know. It was just.
She just needs to get it together.
She needs to get it together. This whole crying damsel in distress thing isn't working for me. I need you to pick a side. I need you to either do it all the time or grow into yourself like Christian has.
I feel like there are moments where Gabby really shines as a competitor, but I hate to say it, I feel like right now she is completely lucky that she found herself in this, what was it, Strikeforce Alliance?
Yes.
I think she is completely lucky she found herself there because Christian, who is incredibly likable and incredibly social in this game, will stick up for her no matter what. And she's kind of riding his coattail at this point.
I agree.
And she's lucky that Nick is also very good and that it's with Allison and Alec. She's very lucky that she is in this position.
I'm excited to see where the Strikeforce Alliance goes. I'm hoping that it stays together. We've seen many alliances fall apart in the beginning. Literally, they make it. Next episode, it's gone. So I hope that they stick together because I feel like having 3 Davids and 3 Goliaths together, it would be a force to be reckoned with. I think that also Alec has put himself in a power position in that alliance because if you think about it, he is the strongest one physically out of everybody in that tribe.
See, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that you say it's 3 Davids and 3 Goliaths, but I feel like it's really 5 Davids and 1 Goliath because out of everyone in that tribe, Alec is the only one that fits the physicality sense of Goliath, that stereotypical idea of what a Goliath is, whereas Mike and Allison are a little bit probably feel, in terms of the stereotype physicality, feel more like Davids.
You read my mind. Good recap. I want to get into one of our special segments, our MVP segment, you guys. Make sure you're letting us know the MVP that you voted for. But for right now, we're going to go into our MVP segment. We already casted our votes. We don't have to write them down, you guys. We've got our amazing blindside music happening right now. Let's see. Vote number 1. I'll be Jeff Probst, unfortunately, because Paige is not here. Angelina. Angelina gets another vote for MVP. I wonder who that could have been. And then we've got... Elizabeth.
I wonder who that could have been.
I wonder. 2 very opposites.
All right, let's talk about this right now. Let's talk about this right now.
Well, I'm going to let you go ahead. Clearly, you voted for Elizabeth.
Clearly. Because here's the thing. When
Not a blindside, is it?
No, not at all. When your name is on the chopping block, you really have nothing to lose except to throw out all the punches you can to try and save yourself. And you want to know what? Kudos to Elizabeth to not only... sadly, coming in so close to winning individual immunity, but to doing everything she can to possibly stay in this competition. I'm proud that she called out Angelina because at the very least, I think the Goliaths know Angelina's strategies a lot better now. I think they realize how hard she's playing, which for me, that's going to be very entertaining to see how it
flips on her.
Exactly.
I don't want to sit here and say because I voted for Angelina that I don't give props and credit to Elizabeth because she was fighting an uphill battle. But at the same time, she kind of put herself in that position because if you were that annoying to everybody on your tribe, then maybe you should have took a back seat or maybe read the room a little bit more. That's the only reason that I didn't write her down. I voted for Angelina because once again, the same reason I voted for her last week with the whole voting, with the whole Natalie Coat thing, I feel like she's just a smooth talker and she can talk her way out of any situation. And for her to be called out at Tribal once again, and nobody voted for her except for the only person that was going home, it's just insane to, it just like literally blows my mind because I just, how do you get called out
want to say lucky.
at a Tribal? I don't think it's lucky.
I want to say that it was lucky because it was a unanimous vote.
No.
I feel like the Goliaths have really good information to use against her moving forward, but I felt it was like, oh, why are we going to try and change it up now? Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. It was a safe vote for everyone. I don't like admitting that because I like Elizabeth and she was on my team, and so I'm also very salty about that. But it was a safe vote for everyone.
Okay, it might have been a safe vote, but it definitely wasn't a lucky vote because if it was a lucky vote, it'd have been closer. It'd have been like 7-6 vote, or yeah, however many votes it would have been, 7-6 or something, or 8-5, something close. But for it to be a unanimous vote, that's not luck. That's you being a smooth talker and talking your way out of somebody calling you out in front of everybody in Tribal. Do I think that you are right about it being on, Angelina being on everybody else's radar now because of the way that she's playing? Yes, but I think Elizabeth could have probably handled that whole calling her out a lot better. That's all I'm saying. That's the only reason why I voted.
How could she have handled it better?
She could have, like I said, she could have, like I think it was Sheena123 or maybe Chelsea who said it earlier, that she maybe shouldn't have saved it for Tribal. Maybe she could have planted some seeds at the camp. Maybe she could have swayed some conversation at camp. Sometimes once you get to Tribal, people's minds are already made up. So for you to try to sway people at that point, it's too late. You should have did it at camp maybe a couple of hours ago. Maybe that could have helped.
Here's the thing. I feel like To some degree, I agree with you that when you go to tribal, your mind is already made up. However, in this game of Survivor, we have seen that is not always the case. I feel like Elizabeth had a good idea in calling her out at tribal so that everyone could see her true colors without giving Angelina time to sit down and talk with everyone and say, no, guys, it's just a big misunderstanding. Because I feel like if she had one-on-one time to try and change it all up, she would have been even more of a smooth talker because it wasn't that pressure of like, oh my gosh, I'm being called out at tribal.
I agree with you. But at the same time, it happened the way it happened, and Elizabeth unfortunately went home. Like Veronica saltedly said, that is somebody on her fantasy draft. So you lost another person, so you're down to 3 people.
Why you never been like that?
I'm sorry. I just got to let people know about our fantasy draft really quick, you guys. So I am still down to 5 people. I don't want to jinx it.
So lucky.
I still have Gabby, Angelina, another reason why I go to bat for her, John, Kara, and Dan. Unfortunately, I have those 2. And then Paige has Christian, Carl, Alec, and Mike left. And you have Nick, Davey, and Allison left.
Please, guys, stick it out for me.
I mean, you still got Davey, and I think that you have a solid.
I feel like I have a good 3, but I don't know. We'll see. I just want to go to our chat real quick. A few people are saying that Gabby is their MVP. Another few people are saying Allison is their MVP. Allison or Angelina. So it seems like it might be between those 3 that everyone is kind of thinking is their MVP.
I love that the women are a force to be reckoned with. I know I keep saying that in this episode, but I feel like that's proper term.
It's a good. Yeah.
They're getting it in. So I hope to see that momentum continue with the women. And I guess we'll see what happens. Let's go into predictions really quick.
And now your AfterBuzz TV prediction.
Our amazing prediction music. I have one. I think that Dan and Angelina are going to be at each other's necks after this. If we didn't see anything from this episode, it was definitely that Angelina does not like Dan and thinks that maybe he comes at her too hard. And I feel like Dan just put himself on Angelina's radar, and I feel like that's going to be a what do they call it at Tribal today? A torn or a tear in the Goliath alliance.
A fracture.
Fracture, thank you, a fracture. I feel like Dan and Angelina will probably be the fracture that comes, because I feel like it's 2 people who are just big person. They just think that they're right, and we'll see what happens. So that's one of my predictions. You got any?
I am very interested to see where John goes further in this competition. He has flown so under the radar right now. I wonder if he's going to emerge as a powerhouse in these individual challenges. I am so excited to see where this Strikeforce Alliance is going to go. I feel like, here's the thing. I'm hoping that Alec doesn't get himself into too much trouble. However, here's the thing. He is the head of that alliance, so if anything happens, it's going to come down. It's going to come down on him and not everybody else. And I'm not saying I dislike Alec. I'm just saying, in comparison to the rest of the tribe,
they're going to go after you.
They're going to go after him, and that's okay, because Christian and Allison are on the tribe, and I'd be happy if they were safe a little bit more.
And Gabby, too. I mean, if those 5, it's a tribe of 6.
If she can come back from disappointing me this week, then she's got it for me.
I don't know. Based on that preview, I mean, it looks like she's just continued to act up. So we obviously don't know in what context, but I guess we will see next week. That is our recap of season 37, episode 7. There's going to be tears shed. Unfortunately, there was none. Almost there was tonight between me and Veronica over here. But there was none.
More steam coming out of my head than there was tears coming out of my eyes.
She's very upset.
I'm so salty.
You are very salty. She's going to be continued to be salty up until next week, you guys. Thank you, everybody in the chat. You guys have had an amazing conversation with us. We love you so much. We're going to close out. Veronica, where can they find you?
Yeah, guys, you can definitely find me on Twitter and Instagram at It's Me, Veronica_V. You can also catch me Tuesdays. I cover The Good Doctor After Show here on AfterBuzz TV at 7 p.m.
And I am Timothy Michael. You can find me everywhere at I am Timothy Mike. We will be back same time, same day next week for episode 8. Paige will be back. We'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.